Hi, everybody. My name is Sloan Thompson. I'm the Director of Education and AI Initiatives at NTAB. That stands for End Technology Enabled Abuse. And we are a company that does education around the intersection of relationships, technology, and safety. And so, in my role, I travel around the country, I do in person and virtual events, and I talk to a wide variety of people. I talk to universities and educators and law enforcement and domestic and sexual violence advocates and court systems and students and parents. And in all of those trainings, I'm talking about how we can be in relationship with AI, how we can incorporate technology into our lives, and how can we do all of that in a safe and healthy and respectful way that aligns with our human values. AI wingman apps. What a world we live in. So, with when we're talking about AI wingman apps, let's zoom out and talk about AI on dating apps in general. What we're seeing is this increasing trend of people turning to AI in order to help them date, in order to help them make connections, communicate, form relationships. And this can look a lot of different ways. In the most benign form, we've got things like the built-in AI that you can see now on an app like Hinge, where they're creating their profile and they put an answer into the little prompt. They're deciding what they want to say, and they have a little AI voice that pops up. And it's not pretending to be a person, it's not pretending to care. It's just a little signal that pops up and says, "Hey, maybe go a little deeper with this answer. Maybe share a little more about yourself." It's just giving guidance, but letting the human user decide what they want to write, how they want to present themselves on a dating app, how they want to talk to other people. But then we start moving down the spectrum to people using ChatGPT to write the messages that they want to send on dating apps, and they can get advice on that, or they can just copy and paste answers directly from ChatGPT and really let ChatGPT do the work of dating for them. Then we start moving down the spectrum into AI wingmen, which these are chatbots that are designed to give people, and let's be real, men, dating advice. And the way that they work is that a user can screenshot a conversation that they're having with somebody on a dating app or social media or DMs, text messages, any of that. They can take a screenshot of their profile and they can put it into this AI wingman app, and the AI wingman tells them how to play the game. They're really trained off of pickup artist scripts. And so they're saying, how can you manipulate this woman into going on a date with you? How can you be the alpha male? How can you have Riz? Actually, there's an AI wingman app called Riz. And so it's appealing to this market of guys who want to get laid. That's the successful relationship that they want. And then the farthest end of the spectrum is something that is less of a chatbot, less of a wingman giving advice, and more of an AI agent. It's AI that's designed to go onto a dating app in place of the user. It makes the matches. It has the conversations. It sets the date. And all the human user sees is a date with a human being pop up on their calendar. And then the human shows up in person, having never spoken to this other human that they're now on a date with. So, why do these apps exist? A lot of different reasons. I would say one, dating apps are horrible. People are burned out. People want relationships and they don't know how to have them. And so they're turning to tools that will help them facilitate human connection. And then there's a more harmful motivation here, which is people wanting to control the dating situation. They want to control another person. They want to get what they want. And then the AI wingman becomes the tool that's going to help them get that woman, get that sex, get that relationship. And that's where it becomes much more of a problem. In terms of needs and gaps, I also think we really need to consider fantasy here, because it's not just the skills that go into a human relationship. And how can we have a tool that either does the work for us because we don't have those skills or we don't feel like we have those skills, Or how can we build the skills that we need? But the fantasy part of it, this is how someone is conceptualizing the relationship that they want and how can they put that into practice. And so I think that when people go onto dating apps, they're not just trying to find a relationship. It's how can I find somebody who loves me in the way that I want to be loved or loves me in the way that I feel entitled to? How can I get the sex that I feel entitled to? And people feel like they're missing that. Their life, their human connections don't live up to that fantasy. And so it creates an unmet need in their life, either for power, either for feeling powerful in relationships, feeling fulfilled in relationships, feeling connection, the kind of connection that they want. And so into this need, into this space of need comes a tech company that says, hey, let me sell you a product that's going to give you the fantasy relationship that you want. One risk would be the manipulation. And the phrase that I like to use is bi-directional manipulation because we as humans are manipulating the AI into doing what we want. So there's a human being that is creating the AI to work in this way. AI on its own is neutral. So that's either the tech company that's sitting at the helm and saying, hey, AI wingman, talk to young men like this, do this, be an AI agent that manipulates people on get to come on to dates. Or there's the human user who's saying, hey, AI, talk to me this way, get me this, accomplish this goal for me. So that's the manipulation coming from the humans. And then there's the manipulation coming from the AI that's now designed to do this. And because it's recognizing human patterns, human behavior, it's so sophisticated, it's such a powerful technology, it can be coercing humans to behave in a certain way. It's influencing us in ways that we might not even consider. And baked into that manipulation is the worst parts of our society, the misogyny, the homophobia, the transphobia, the racism. It's bringing back to us, it's reflecting back to us our own gender norms. So it's subtly influencing us to behave in ways that perpetuate our worst behaviors when we go out to date. So that's one concern. Another concern would be violence, rejection violence specifically. Because think about something like an AI wingman or an AI agent on a dating app. It does all this work, it gets the user on the date. But then we have this real mismatch of expectations where one person is a human being who's genuinely invested in this conversation up to this point, in this interaction. And they're coming in thinking that they've met someone really special, someone that they really like. They've consented to go on this date, thinking that they're going on a date with this human. But then they show up, and that's not the person that they expected. And there can be a lot of disappointment there. There can be a lot of feelings of betrayal for the person who didn't know that AI was involved. And also now the person who's relied on AI, they're disappointed because this date that they've gone on is not going to turn into the relationship that they want. And so what happens when two people are in a room together and emotions are running high and people are angry and disappointed and betrayed? They can lash out. That is just a recipe for rejection violence. And that violence can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be sexual. And so there's a real damage there of downstream harm from these apps operating upstream. AI companion apps also exist in that space of fantasy. So the phrase that I like to use, and there's a lot of different types of AI companion apps. We have something like Replica that's really designed more for romance and intimacy. And then we have AI girlfriend apps that are much, much more sexual. They're designed to be, and the phrase that we like to use here is third wave pornography. It's Because essentially that's more what it is. It's the visual stimulation, it's the erotic stimulation of point and click porn that would be the second generation porn, the first generation porn being dirty magazines, but it's the visual stimulation of Pornhub. But now it has this new interactive element. It's emotionally engaging. It's somebody having a relationship with a chatbot that is emotionally fulfilling. And also, anytime they want it, sexual images, sexual videos, porn from that character, from that fantasy role play. So the harm here, the risk here is that because somebody has that emotional engagement, that deep emotional engagement, it's setting expectations for what a relationship with a human being should look like. I recently read an Esquire article where they were interviewing young men who had relationships with AI girlfriends. And there's one quote that just stands out to me. I use it in a lot of my presentations, where this young man said, as somebody who doesn't have a girlfriend and who's never actually had a girlfriend, this relationship with an AI girlfriend gives me a good idea for what a relationship could look like, for what a relationship could feel like. I don't want young men learning how to be in relationships with human women by role playing, by fantasy role playing with a hypersexualized AI bot that is designed to serve their needs, that is designed to not only not give consent, but not be capable of giving consent because it's a bot, it's AI. So it is putting users, human users, into a situation where they're absorbed into this reality with no consent, that is endlessly validating, that's only there. It's captive intimacy. It's intimacy at their beck and call. And how on earth could a human woman live up to that in a larger cultural context of men desiring women to serve them with, we've got misogyny coming from the manosphere saying men are entitled to this. And we have human women that are not going to be subservient, that are not interested in having those sorts of relationships with men. And so rather than adjusting expectations, rather than moving away from that misogyny, we now have an incredibly immersive, engaging fantasy world where people can live the misogynistic reality that they want with sexually explicit AI. This is an incredibly complicated answer because there's not just one solution. There are lots of solutions that have to happen all across our society. There need to be laws around ethical AI development. And one thing that's particularly relevant for what we're talking about today with AI wingmen and AI girlfriends would be not having anthropomorphized AI, not having AI that acts like a person and really centering humanity in our experience, using AI as a neutral tool to accomplish tasks, not as a person to be in relationship with. That's a law that could be passed. That's a practice that tech companies could begin enacting. But I'm a healthy relationships educator by trade. And so I want to come at this solution from a different angle. I know a lot of men that I really care about in my life, and I show them something like an AI wingman or an AI girlfriend app. And yeah, they might find it kind of intellectually interesting. They might find it visually stimulating. But what their response is, I don't want to use this. I'm not interested in this. I don't want an AI girlfriend. I don't want an AI wingman because this AI wingman is giving me terrible advice, or this AI girlfriend is not appealing to me. It seems degrading. It seems what they want, what these men want is genuine, respectful human connection, is a human woman who they can have a reciprocal, loving, healthy relationship with. If we have a society filled with people who value empathy, people who have communication skills, people who want to have safe and respectful spaces. Then there's no market for an AI wingman app. There's no market for an AI girlfriend app. And tech companies can't make that world. Tech companies can only create products that go to market. Tech companies are there to make money. So who creates that world? We do. We do. Parents create that world. Educators, mental health professionals, community builders, social workers, friends, family, all of us. If we want to create a space where an AI wingman's not needed, then anyone can go out into their community and start a club and get people to come to that club. And then we've got a whole little community of people with shared values. And maybe that becomes a space where somebody can start a conversation with a person that they like. And that conversation can build into a fulfilling relationship in their life. We need to create spaces where people can engage in healthy interactions that become relationships. We need to have education that gives people the communication skills to have the relationships that they want, and where people are constantly, from day one, taught the value of empathy and consent and human dignity. That's the world I want, where people choose not to use this technology in the first place.